you've done the right things. But then the next day comes around, and you're out of coffee in the morning, so you don't get coffee. And then everything kind of trails up to one thing to the next. You skip Bible time, you lose your temper at work or with your spouse or one of your kids, and by the end of the day, you're like, man, I am a horrible person. God must be radically displeased in me. And your sense of God's affection and approval with you and his acceptance of you go up and down depending on how well you do during your day. Maybe I'm the only one that struggles with that. But the gospel tells us that God's affection, approval, and acceptance for you, for me, for us as his adopted sons and daughters has absolutely nothing to do with our performance. And the reason we struggle to believe this is because we're so used to experiencing other people's love as conditional. I will love you, I will accept you, I will welcome you into my life so long as you perform according to these things. And if your performance is good, you're going to get my acceptance, approval, and affection. But if your performance is bad, I'm going to reject you, mock you, treat you poorly, communicate to you that you don't have my acceptance, you don't have my approval, because you're not performing well. But see, the reality of the gospel is this, is that God's love for you it's not conditional. And I'm not even going to say God's love is unconditional. God's love is contra-conditional. Contra-conditional. And what I mean by that, it is contrary. Contrary to any conditions that have anything to do with you. There's a guy, David Powlison. Listen to what he says. God has blessed me because, listen to this, his son. God has blessed me because Jesus has fulfilled the conditions I could never achieve. Contrary to what I deserve, he loves me. And now I can begin to change, not because I can earn his love, but because I've already received it. It's a whole lot different. It's a whole lot different. You see, God's love for you is contra-conditional, meaning that the conditions for God's love for you are based upon Jesus, who fulfilled them perfectly, and therefore when you are in Christ, you have not only been given God's love, but in Christ made worthy of God's love, because you are now clothed in the righteousness of Christ. Contra-conditional. Not only does he love you, he makes you worthy of his love. So God's affection, approval, and acceptance of you are unstopping, unrelenting, and unchanging because of who Jesus is. Now these are two profound truths of the gospel that if you get, they begin to radically change the way you think about yourself, life, other people, and what it means to be the church. And when those things are clicking and we're resting in our identity as adopted sons and daughters, looking around, recognizing that we are the community of the redeemed, that we are all people who stand guilty before God, but yet have been forgiven and showed mercy we don't deserve, brought in through Christ, shown grace and love, and claimed as God's own sons and daughters. When those things are clicking, what happens is we begin to function as a family. And a glorious kind of picture of that is found in Acts 2, verses 42 through 47. I'm just going to read through them really quickly so you can kind of see what's going on here. This is a picture of what happens. It says, "And they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and the prayers. And awe came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. And all who believed were together and had all things in common, and they were selling their possessions and belongings, and distributing the proceeds to all, as any had need. And day by day, attending the temple together, and breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved." So in this text, we get a window into what the church looks like as a family, living for God's glory and the renewal of all things. And there's a couple key things you begin to see is that, first and foremost, they were deeply connected. They were deeply connected with each other and doing life together in an intimate and very real and transparent way. You also see that they were meeting each other's needs spiritually and physically. That as anyone had need, that need would be met to the degree where people were actually selling their own possessions to serve the needs of others around them in their community. And you also see that they were impacting their community for the glory of God.